Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to HelpC's live broadcast. Today, our series 7, we are going to talk about integrative imagery. This is such a beautiful topic. I know that during my difficult days, when I felt challenged or I needed hope, I have used guided imagery to help me move on, to help me gain strength. And I would love to share this with you. So thank you so much for joining and for watching. We have a great speaker today with us, Susan Ezra. She's my longtime friend, a fellow holistic nurse. In fact, she was one of the initial people who welcomed me when I joined the holistic nursing organization. And she's a nurse coach with the through the American Holistic Nurses Association. And she has over 35 years of nursing experience throughout her life. She's someone who inspires me and someone who got me excited about holistic nursing because she has such a great passion about igniting people's healing potential through utilizing the best of their body and mind. She's been on the staff at Hospice of Marin for 20 years, and she pioneered bringing imagery to the bedside of hospice patients. It's truly amazing to see her in action in this. And this has helped to alleviate many symptoms for our palliative patients, such as pain and the sense of well-being. And for last so many years, 20 plus years, she's been teaching clients individually and healthcare professionals on how to use guided imagery for themselves or for their patients. So really phenomenal work that she's been doing. And if that wasn't enough, she co-founded the certificate program for integrative imagery in 1996 with Terry Reed, who's another amazing holistic nurse. And both of them have been successful in incorporating imagery services in hospital-wide programs, bringing stress management, surgery preparation, guided imagery to the staff, patients, and community at Mills Peninsula Hospital. And in 2008, they co-authored a book, Guided Imagery and Beyond, Stories of Healing and Transformation. She might have a little surprise for us about that. And Susan also works with elder care specialists providing geriatric care. So she truly comes with a broad experience and years of passion in holistic medicine and in integrative imagery. She's one of the world-renowned experts in this area. So we're very excited to have her here and for her to talk to us about guided imagery and how you could potentially use it in your life. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta, and thank you for all of those kind words. I would like to open by saying something about the imagination that I believe to be really true. Imagination is a vast resource, an inner world of creativity and healing and unlimited potential. And it may be our most powerful resource for change and transformation. And I thought it would be fun to just open our discussion with a few moments of some imagery. And you can do simple eyes open and just thinking about something, or if you'd like, you can close your eyes and have it be a little more formal, where you take a few easy, deep breaths and just allow those breaths to breathe through your body. And let the breath be a way to connect the mind and body together. They really are connected, they're not separate. And the breath can be a wonderful way to connect with our mind, body, and our whole self. And while you're focusing on yourself, let an image come to you that is some someone, something, somewhere that is joyful to you. And whatever is most strongly that image of joy to you, just dwell with it for a few moments. And you probably will see an image, but you may also feel or sense. You might also hear or experience this image in more than one way. However you do, just let yourself be in that experience of joy, body and mind. Whatever image is with you and you're with. And keep that with you. Tuck it inside somewhere and know that it's part of you. You can come back to it and connect with that joy anytime you wish. So if your eyes are closed, go ahead and take another deep breath and return your attention. Notice how you feel.
That was wonderful. I feel
So
relaxed.
simple.
Yeah. I feel so relaxed. I don't know if I even want to talk. That was beautiful beginning.
I would like to thank you. I would like to say something though. The reason I thought of an image of joy today is because I was gifting myself a self-retreat day, and I was at this sweet little place that has a little inner courtyard. And my image of joy, Sangeeta, there's a little tiny fountain with little streams of water. And my image of joy was the hummingbird multiple
Yeah.
times coming to the fountain and drinking the water. It was just so exquisite. So that's the image I'm going to be thinking about often.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. I think for me the image was of a trip I took many, many years ago. I thought I'd forgotten about it, probably almost a decade ago, and I came back to that image. So it's quite interesting and just wonderful. It's kind of cool how you can take yourself to any place you want just by closing your eyes and imagining it. So
Exactly. Exactly. That's how it works.
yeah, that's my lay definition of guided imagery. Is I find ways to find myself or lose myself depending on the situation. But I'd love to hear from you. What is guided imagery and what is integrative imagery? Because it looks like that's another level within that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm going to turn on the light here. It's simply because the sun's set, and bring a little more light on the subject there. That's better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me give, maybe I can put this in 3 sentences. Let me give the overarching perspective of imagery. So imagery is something we all do. It's a way the right brain thinks and conceptualizes. And it's a way for us to tap into our creativity and to experience things as a whole thought, not as something singular and individual. So there's a wholeness to it. And guided imagery is really simply using that natural thought process to give us the power of our mind to help our mind, body, and spirit move to wherever we want to, whether it's a place or whether it's a state of health or whether it's reducing stress or whether it's relieving pain, whatever it is. And the reason why it is such a wonderful adjunct to anything in healthcare is that we can all do it, because it's simply one of the ways we think and one of the ways we can use our intellect. So I can pause here, or I can go into what integrative imagery is.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, all right. So we coined, Terry and I, when we were doing our training, we coined the term integrative imagery out of our original training was called interactive guided imagery. And it's simply a more specific and quite formalized way of using guided imagery, primarily with an individual, where our role as the guide is to facilitate the imagery process for the individual to help them connect with their inner resources, their inner wisdom, and their innate potential to heal themselves. So the difference, the specialness to integrative imagery is that it's not just experiencing an image like we just did, but there's a dialogue component to it. So the client and the guide are talking back and forth, and the client's also engaged in dialoguing or interacting in some way with the imagery or with the images while they're in that relaxed state.
Wow. So guided imagery is typically one-way transfer of information, right? So you
usually.
Yeah, usually. So you think you have a guide who's helping you with a certain vision, a certain thought that you're manifesting, or it's something that a person is doing by themselves. They're imagining a certain flow, a certain vision for themselves, versus integrative imagery, which you're saying is that it's a guide and the client, they are creating this imagery, but it's a dual flow of information. So they're co-creating it and co-living it and experiencing what happens there.
Beautiful word, co-creating, experiencing it, even though the guide is really holding the space for the client. The guide is not in the client's process, but there is something that is accentuating the power of the imagery process when someone is guided, someone is observed, witnessed, and supported, and somebody is in a very safe, really almost a sacred space. So you added a great description to it. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Let me dig a little bit deeper into this for my sake and for the sake of our audience. Is can you touch a little bit about the benefits of each, in the sense that many of us might be new to the concept of guided imagery itself. So what do you think are the benefits of guided imagery, or where it's used, and what is the further benefit of integrative imagery on top of that?
Well, guided imagery, probably of all the complementary therapies and approaches and all that's available to us now, in addition to conventional medicine, allopathic medicine it's called, guided imagery is probably one of the most accepted. There's really no harm in it. There's no side effects to it. It's been used really since ancient times and been used in modern times for decades now. We use it in sports all the time, or in performance when we want to imagine how we want something to be and then visualize or grasp the goal and the gold medal and the outcome. In healthcare, we use it a lot in surgery preparation. Probably one of the biggest and most far-reaching uses of guided imagery in healthcare is oncology, is in cancer care. And that goes way back to the 1980s with Carl Simonton's original work. It was really one of the pioneers to look at the idea of imagining our own immune system cells eliminating abnormal cancer cells, or utilizing powerful images of the treatment, having the treatment as a powerful ally rather than, understandably, but so often people think of chemo as a toxin or a poison, when we can turn it around and put a positive emphasis on it and make it our element for cure or remission, whatever it is we're going towards. And just one other thought that comes to mind is we use this process all the time when we remember something, when we imagine something in the future, and we use it in the present. So we are using it all the time.
Interesting. Yeah, we just didn't realize that we are using it all the time, and if we can do so consciously, we can tailor it much further for our benefit. I think it's very interesting the way you described it, like when like what it resonated with me, the way I heard it or how I felt it applied for me in this was from a future creating perspective. It's you're planning and you are guiding your own success. You're visualizing it almost like the light at the end of the tunnel or your destination, and the path of getting there, or at least the fact that you're going to get there, and that gives the hope and the positive energy to go in that direction. So that's how I felt like it applies to me, and to the way I can offer it to my patients. And on the other side, I think when from what you're saying, like when someone is experiencing a negative emotion, right? Like if I'm experiencing anxiety or I'm experiencing fear, that positive thought, a positive emotion, creating this integrative imagery experience brings you into the positive state, right? Like you talked about, it brings you to the positive attitude and the positive space. That's quite powerful. And the power of positive thinking, there are like so many books and studies on it. It's quite interesting, huh?
And again, the key word, Sangrita, that you said is is being consciously aware of how we're using it, because
Mhm.
it is so true. We use imagery all the time in a negative perspective when we worry, when we're in a state of fear and anxiety. The mind has images, the thoughts are going through our mind. We have the emotions. We also then have the biochemicals like adrenaline and cortisol, and the body's responding to that as well. So if you know how to worry, you already know how to do imagery. So we all do that to some degree, you know. I mean, it's natural. And key thing is that we're wired biologically that way because we're biological animals, and we have to be on an alert and a state of if to make it the most mild, a state of concern. But most of the time, it's a state of fear, having to react so that we can fight, flight, flee, or freeze. And so if we can do that and we can know the powerful effects of it, we can be consciously using it as a powerful, positive vehicle for transformation.
Wow, that is really powerful, Susan. I had not thought of it that way until now. That's very powerful. I hope our audience are hearing this, because I know all of us get into that point or that state some point in our life where we are scared, or we are worried, we are fearful, and or we freeze, the flight or the fight or freeze. I think it's great you said the freeze because I think in my case, I either fight or I freeze. So it's I can definitely relate to that. And I think it's interesting you said that if we know how to do this, we know how to do imagery because we are creating that negative image in us. And if we consciously can change it, then we can create the positive image in our mind and experience the benefits of that. It's quite interesting. Um, Susan, would love to know about your journey of how you got here, what you saw that impacted you to go in this field, and how you found it helpful for the people that you have served throughout your life.
Well, I think some of us are fortunate enough to find our passion, to find our life purpose, and truly I feel like this is mine. And I think the journey just organically evolved. Way back in the late 1980s is when I first got interested in using imagery, practicing relaxation, mindfulness. We didn't call it that then, but that's what we were really doing. And then in 1990, I did my formal training in, again, we called it interactive guided imagery. And that was with the Academy for Guided Imagery, which is still providing a certification program. And I was fortunate enough to just feel like it was that image of hand and glove. It was just so right for me. And then I went on to start teaching it with my co-partner, my teaching partner, and have worked with just hundreds of people over all of that time. And I'm still very much doing that. Now I've added, through wisdom of the whole, health coaching, and I just love the two blending so well together, the integrative imagery and health coaching, which is a holistic model, mind, body, emotion, spirit, looking at connecting with what's greater than us and also what's within us. So I've been very blessed, and I can't say it's been all easy. my journey to have this as a career in terms of making money. I've had lots of other part-time day jobs, but I will say that I love it so much, and I feel like until probably the day I die, will continue to share this with people as much as I can.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. You've helped so many people, and that's wonderful. You've added the coaching component to this, and kudos to you for continuing on this difficult journey. And thank you from all the people who have been impacted positively, and all the people who will be impacted in the future that we don't even know about. So it's wonderful work you're doing, Susan. Let's go a little bit deeper and talk about what are the common conditions, symptoms where you would consider using guided imagery, where our audience can think of using guided imagery, and a little bit about how they could do that.
Well, truly, Sangeeta, there's nothing that guided imagery wouldn't be helpful for. You can, for instance, let's say if we were to go back to worry and anxiety and fear. So we can either be in that place and feel that emotion, or we can tap into our own strength within ourselves, or call forth from something outside of us a strength that can help us counteract the fear. So an example would be if someone feels that, they're frozen, they're immobilized, they're just in a state of don't know what to do because they feel so anxious or fearful. Obviously, that's not a good place to be. To do just a little bit of breathing or closing your eyes and asking for an image of, and here's the interesting thing, asking for the opposite of fear. It could be courage, could be strength, it could be bravery, it could, whatever. And that's why the integrative imagery idea is so great, because it's the person who comes up with what is most meaningful for them. Say courage. So someone could call forth an image of courage. Guess who? The cowardly lion turned to be Leo. And Leo can be an ally to help with what's the word I want? Overcoming that fear. So there's an example. In my training and my experience and in my own program, we dwell a lot on different techniques for pain. So pain is a physical experience, but how we respond to it and how we can modulate it can make all the difference in the world. So there's probably at least 24 different techniques to help people manage, minimize, or relieve pain. One, try to think of the simplest one. One is just using one's breath to breathe in, and wherever the pain is, breathe into that part of the body that has the pain, and let the out breath take the pain out of the body. Here we're using the physical body, but we're also using the power of the imagination.
That's wonderful. Those were really, really nice examples about almost any emotional condition, right? Whether, you're feeling fear or anxiety, depression, it could be used for any of those, stress, feeling low. And then you talked about the physical symptom like pain, where guided imagery, integrative imagery could be very helpful. I love this idea of the opposite, because I have used guided imagery before, and I've heard about you, and we've done the integrative imagery at AHNA. I'm just discovering so much more about it. So I think this idea of creating the opposite positive image in your mind, and that positive intention can be so powerful. It relates almost, in my mind, to mantra, where we use the positive affirmation and the mantra to build uh, that strength or that courage or that energy in your body. So you've actually come up with a way of taking the negativity and being able to turn it to the exact opposite with a positive. So that's amazing. I think at the end of this, we will try and post some resources for our audience of these different imagery that they can use for pain and for managing different health conditions. So do stay tuned for that. We will post it in the video information. I think the other areas where I have heard it being used, or heard from my colleagues, has been, like you said, it works for almost anything. Seen it being used for sleep, for helping people to sleep better, and also sometimes for digestive problems, which is interesting. Can you touch a little bit on how it is used in digestive problems? And also, you talked about you work with fear with cancer patients. How do you help them in such scenarios?
I think I'll take the digestive topic, and getting quite a bit of feedback now, so I'm really trying to just give a lot of pause in between when you're speaking and I am. So the digestive disturbance is really fascinating. You could look at it on a lot of different levels, on Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, looking at it imagery perspective. When there's any digestive problem, there is the opportunity to use the mind and your imagination to help your body, and simply, again, taking some deep breaths, quieting the mind, and asking whatever part of the digestion is off, to present an image of what's going on there, or to actually have, we call dialoguing with a part of ourselves or a part of the body. So let's say it's the stomach is feeling very unsettled. I could simply, in guided imagery, ask my stomach, what are you needing? What are you saying to me right now? What would be helpful to you? Wonderful way to use imagery to connect the mind and body. And you're also relaxing. You're using the power of the physiological benefit of the relaxation response when you're using imagery. So that's going to help the stomach and the digestive system calm down.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I hope our audience found that is a really neat trick to be able to talk to any part of your body, especially your digestive system. Be able to say what, check in, almost like a self-diagnosis of what's going on, and be able to understand the need and address it. That's really wonderful. Susan, let me move on to the next topic. Yes.
Before you do, I have to comment on this. So that's another really important understanding with pain, because pain is a message from the body, right? And often we try to suppress pain, we try to ignore it, we try to make it go away. What about listening to it and finding out what it needs, what it has to say? Is there a message that it's trying to communicate? The body has an exquisite own intelligence of knowledge and information. And sometimes pain is trying to tell us something.
Absolutely, absolutely. So true. So true. I have some chronic health conditions where I get pain in my neck and shoulders, and what you said is so true and powerful. It can, just listening to your body and understanding why you're having pain, what your body needs at that moment. It's like the prescription is right there inside you. Yeah, it's just, you just have to tap into it. This is so wonderful, Susan. Let me ask you the next question, which our our users would have on their mind, is what is the evidence behind guided imagery, behind integrative imagery? Have you seen any articles and studies that show this?
Ask the question again, Sangeeta. I didn't quite get it.
Is there good clinical evidence for guided imagery and integrative imagery?
There's tremendous clinical evidence, and we have much more research on guided imagery in general than we do with integrative imagery. And if you want me to, I can give you 2 websites now where there's some references to research and clinical evidence.
Wonderful. Yeah, we can. Can you tell us the name of the websites, and we will post it later with the video as well?
One of them is Health Journeys, HEALTH, healthjourneys.com. Ruth Napperstack, long name, but she is like the grande dame of guided imagery and scripts for all kinds of things. She's really a phenomenal person. So healthjourneys.com. And then my first teacher, Marty Rossman, who was a physician in Marin County where I am, his website has some very good research and evidence-based documentation about the great use of imagery all across the board. And his website is thehealingmind.org.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. That's great. I think these are really good resources for our users. So if you are looking for where you can find information about guided imagery, some potential samples of guided imagery, you can go there. And there is good research that has been mentioned on these sites about the benefits of guided imagery for different conditions. Also, I have seen mention of these research on the NIH website, the NIH NCAM website, which is the one for complementary and alternative medicine. It talks about the many benefits of guided imagery. And there are articles in PubMed that I've seen for benefits of guided imagery for different emotions. So for anxiety, for fear, for when you get your first treatment, and there is this uneasiness. Seen some articles on just finding your peace with yourself, finding grounding. Some research that's been done in this area with death and dying patients. So really good benefits of guided imagery that are seen. And of course, for pain management, there is there are some really good articles on PubMed about guided imagery and pain management. And I have some CDs actually of guided imagery for pain management that are very helpful to address this. And there is research that is associated with it as well. So really good evidence behind it for many of these conditions, and generally no side effects, like Susan mentioned. So that's really wonderful, Susan. Let me move on in the interest of time to our next topic. Is another concern or question that people might have is, how do you do guided imagery? Is this something you do yourself? Do you find a practitioner? If you try to find a practitioner, what do you watch out for in terms of what you can do, what you shouldn't do? Just for people who are new to this and want to experience it, what would be your advice, suggestions for them?
There's so much I could answer with that question. Yes, I think it's really ideal to work with a guide and to have somebody facilitate the process for you. And again, there's something about when you work with an individual as a guide that provides a safety and support and allows the person to really be able to deeply utilize this process for themselves. It is best to have somebody who's formally trained, and the different, again, websites where you can find certified practitioners would be the Academy for Guided Imagery and Imagery International. That's our professional organization for imagery practitioners. And both of those organizations have a list of certified practitioners.
Okay, that's good. So that's where people can go for finding practitioner and being able to work with someone. Is there any safety concerns or issues that they need to be aware about?
Is there concerns, issues about
Safety?
safety? That's the benefit of having someone formally trained, is that part of our training is creating safety and knowing how to guide someone. Let's say if a fearful image does come up, and well-trained will know what to do about that. I think that overall the best safeguard, Sangeeta, is to know for ourselves, all of us, everybody, we can always stop the process if we want to at any time. That's the best safeguard. We don't have to be in this process. It's a not monitored, it's self-regulated. So we have control over the process. If we want to stop or come out of the process at any time, that's always there.
Absolutely, very true, very true. It's generally very, very safe, and working with somebody is definitely helpful. I think already when I talk to you, I'm realizing so much more is there about guided and integrative imagery. So being able to personalize it for you will increase the power of what you can do, where you can focus and leverage it to higher benefit. So that's wonderful. I know, Susan, you had mentioned you wanted to read a few paragraphs from a book. Would you like to do that? And then we can go into the questions and answers.
Can you hear me, Sangeeta?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I had to shut the window. There's a dog barking out there. Well,
No worries.
I wanted to just read a little bit from, two of the other resources I did give you already is my book, and then another book by Leslie Davenport, two great resources for this kind of work. And as I said, oncology and using this in cancer diagnosis, treatment, and recovery is just a huge area where this is being realized. And one of the stories in the book is by a client who I worked with who had cancer of the parotid gland that's in the neck here. And so she had a pretty rough course of treatment. So I will just say where she started was when she imagined a beautiful healing place for herself, just like you did when we started. And her place was a crystal cave underwater with dolphins swimming by. And that's where she went every day when she went to radiation therapy. She went to radiation therapy, but where she went in her imagination was to her underwater crystal cave with dolphins.
Wow, I want to go there.
You too can create that for yourself. So she also ended up with a lot of pain because of the radiation. And she asked for what we call wisdom figures or inner healers to help her. That's another tool when we use imagery. And two Native Americans came in her imagination and helped her to heal the pain in her ear as a result of the radiation. She also developed some difficulty swallowing, which again is common because of the type of treatment that she had. So her, and this is the wonder of working with your own imagination. This came to her, a healing garden that she would go to every day. And in the healing garden, within her imagination, there was healing herbs, comfrey, arnica, aloe, golden seal, hemlock. All of these, she created a poultice. That's something that she could put on her throat. She could do that in reality, but she would do that in her imagery. And this really helped her relieve the pain. Much more. There's many different inner healers that she had. One was an uncle physician who was actually somebody in her real life, and he became her inner healer as well. And she had just many other areas. Once she recovered from the cancer and the treatment, that she continued to use in her healing of a lot of different issues. So that just gives you some little taste.
Wow, that's so powerful and beautiful. It's amazing because you, like you said, in your physical body you're going for radiation, but in the mind you're taking yourself to a very healing place. And the images that she manifested for herself, they are all so strongly related with healing. Like being in this underwater dolphin now, it makes so much sense because radiation has the drying and heating effect, and the cooling water with the dolphins and the blue and the relaxing, it's the opposite of that. And she, for her pain, she manifested in her imagination these beautiful herbs that actually are for pain relief. So it's quite fascinating, um, the solutions that came to her in her um, visions, in her imagery of what she could do. They are very healing in real life as well, that she was able to tap into. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that, Susan, with us. Very powerful. Well, let's take some of our audience question now. They have been waiting patiently. So one of them has asked that, um, about, have you thought of or know about using guided imagery instead of or in conjunction with Lamaze for labor pain?
Oh, very much so. Actually, I think, if we were to go back into the decades before, imagery, Lamaze, birthing preparation, imagining an image of like the cervix opening, using the imagery rehearsal to imagine how someone's would want their birth to be, their delivery and birth process to be. Absolutely, it's just part and parcel. There's even a wonderful story, which I won't go into, of Terry's working with a friend of hers who had twins, and one of them was breech, and the with medical assistance as well, but with the imagery, the baby was able to be turned and deliver head first. So absolutely, yes, any of this with birthing is ideal.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's such a special moment, and to be able to add guided and integrative imagery to this, to imagine your beautiful experience, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. And our next question is from one of our audience, who says that your talk reminds me of the Power Pose TED Talk by Amy Paddy. She's a Harvard professor who's done a lot of work on changing one's body position to change one's mental state. And it talks about the endorphins and hormone levels. Have you heard of this talk? It's about like creating the right posture and the open posture for yourself that creates the positive energy in you.
I didn't get the second name. Amy
Paddy?
I've not heard of that talk, but absolutely, again, because the mind and body are one, the posture and the alignment for the energy to flow in the body will certainly affect one's biochemicals, endorphins, serotonin, all of the positive biochemicals, and will have positive effects on the mind. So yeah, there's great stuff on TED Talks. Really awesome people.
Yeah. I like the person who asked this because I love watching TED Talks too. So really nice question. And I loved that specific TED Talk. It was so interesting. And like you said, Susan, it's so much about, you're creating that vision for yourself of I'm in control, I'm strong, I'm powerful, and you stand strong and you feel strong. So very interesting and very cool. I think whoever asked it, they got it. What you're talking about. So our next question is about this intention that you talked about. So you talked about finding your calling. So which aspects of integrative imagery to pull you in the sense that for the people who are looking for our own calling, it will be good to get your thought on how do you do this? How to find your own calling is what they are asking.
Well, that's a beautiful subject, and I appreciate the person bringing it forward. And again, the power of our imagination and utilizing our own inner resources and tapping into our source of whatever we believe source to be. One way to use guided imagery would be to do a meditation for yourself to an image of life purpose, or an image of asking a question, what am I meant to do? You could also structure it in what is my passion, or what am I passionate about? And then let your imagination create some scenarios or experiences of that. So absolutely, and you mentioned the word intention. I believe that intention and imagination are pretty much equally as powerful. So what we intend, where we put our intention and our attention, is usually where we go. So even if we don't know, sometimes we don't, I mean, like I said, I've been fortunate to know my life's purpose, and many people don't. But just asking that question and being open to what information can come can be a great way to use imagery.
That's very cool. That's very, very deep question, I think. Very interesting question, and a very interesting use of guided imagery, integrative imagery in that regard. And yeah, I think you answered it so beautifully as you talked about, opening up that intention, and the intention and the attention is where your energy goes, and opening up and asking that question, what is my life purpose? How could I serve? And that's, I'm definitely a testament to that, a living testimonial to that, because I did that many years ago. And the answers came, surprisingly, they came, and that's why I am here. From being an engineer, I ended up here, and it's because I asked the question, what is my life purpose? What could I do that would be of service to the world? So got the answers. So it could be a matter of few minutes, or it could be a matter of months, or it could be a matter of years or decades. I think asking that question and being open and holding that intent, like you said, it gets you to that place of purpose. So I hope that the person who asked this question, our audience, does find their purpose and their intent, and I hope that the imagery helps them in this regard. Wonderful. Let me move on to the next question. We have 2 more questions. I know we're a little bit over time, so we'll try and just take these questions quickly. These are good ones. So the question is, are there any skills to be able to listen to your body?
Really profound questions. Yes, I think the greatest skill is to quiet yourself, to slow down, move out of being distracted from these darn phones and, this, that, and the other thing, and, come into that place of relaxation. That opens the channel to be able to best listen to the body.
That's true. That's very nice. Yeah, just get away from distraction and go in. Um, that's wonderful. Easier said than done, but it's possible. So that's good. Great. Let me ask you the final question for the night is, are there guided imagery exercises you recommend for people on a daily basis that they can do on their own?
I think I would give one simple answer, and that would be the reference for healthjourneys.com. Again, Belle Ruth Napperstack, she has hundreds of guided imagery CDs available, and some are free and some are downloadable. You don't have to get the CD, you can just download the audio. Beautiful plethora of resources there. Also, one other one that has some free downloads is guidedimagerycd.com. Beautiful woman, Glenda Cedarleaf. But all you have to do is Google what you want, and you'll get a million things on the web too.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, those are really good, good ideas, good resources to find the one that resonates with you, and then you can download it. You can keep it. There are so many free ones that are available online, so you can pick that. That's wonderful, amazing. Thank you so much, Susan. Any parting thoughts that you have for our audience as we get ready to wrap it up?
I would just say, always remember the power of your imagination.
That's wonderful. That's so true, so powerful, so simple. So always remember the power of your imagination. Great, great, great thought to leave with. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight, and for us to talk about guided imagery and integrative imagery with wonderful nurse and coach, Susan. Such a pleasure to have her. I hope you got to learn something, to take some interesting thoughts with you, and realize how powerful you are, realize how powerful your mind is, and you have so much in you to care for yourself, to heal, and to be anything that you want to be. So I leave you with the power of your imagination, and you have a wonderful evening, and wishing you good health and happiness. Thank you from Help See Health.